Joining me now is a living Australian legend. I mentioned before the break that on this day 50 years ago, something incredible happened. Firstly, it was the first day of play in the seventh test. Yes, the seventh test. In an era of much shortened series, 4 test rubbers, it is the only 7 test rubber in the history of test cricket between Australia and England, with the Ashes at stake. And on this day in 1971, Friday the 12th of February, Ian Chappell stepped onto the Sydney Cricket Ground as the captain of Australia. The game of cricket changed irrevocably during his tenure, and the era became known as the Chappell era. Ian Chappell joins me now in Macquarie Park. Ian, thanks for making time and welcome to the McGregor Angle.
Pleasure, Catherine.
You were not out naught at this time 50 years ago. What are your memories of that day, Ian? Because I want to challenge you on one thing. You've got a great saying that everyone remembers, and that is when you win the toss, you bat 9 times out of 10, and on the 10th occasion, you think about sending the other mob in, and then you have a bat. You sent the Poms in and rolled them for 184 with spinners operating on the very first day. What was in that deck that persuaded you to take that risk?
Well, it wasn't so much the pitch, Catherine. It was more to do with the outfield. There'd been a lot of rain in Sydney in the lead up to the match, and I figured that the outfield was probably going to, on the first day, probably going to cost you 20 or 30 runs. So and Sydney could get very quick in a hurry, the outfield. And so I figured that if we didn't have any more rain and it dried out, there could have been a 60-run swing between the first day and the second day. And plus the fact that the pitch had been under covers for quite a long time. So they were the main reasons why I sent the opposition in.
And you were certainly vindicated because you rolled them on the first day, and again, pretty adventurous bowling 2 spinners on day one, first day as a captain. They didn't let you down. You actually probably should have won that one with hindsight, shouldn't you?
Yeah, we should have
Only
won
chasing 223.
Yeah, we didn't bat too well in either innings, really. We should have got a bigger lead. I don't think I had much choice in bowling the spinners because that's who they picked. From memory, we had Dennis Lillee, Tony Dell, the 2 quicks, probably Greg and Dougie with the medium paces. I don't think there was a third quickie, and then the 2 leg spinners, Terry Jenner and Kerry O'Keefe. So I don't know that it was so brave. I don't think I had much choice.
Okay. Well, of course, that test goes down in memory for a number of reasons. It's the only 7th test ever played. That eminent writer R.S. Whitington, who went to South Africa with you guys and wrote Simpson's Safari in 66-7, said he thinks it was the pivotal test in the history of the game, which is a big call. But there's 2 things that stick in my memory. The walk-off by the Poms, where they nearly forfeited after the snow cone was attacked by a crowd member. What was your memory of it? Did you think that Illy might stay in the rooms and not come back? What did you make of it? Or did you not know what was going on?
I was hoping he'd stay in the room because Lou Rowan had come down to our dressing room, I think on his own. I can't remember now whether he came with the other umpire or not.
Tommy Brooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tommy Brooks, the other one. Yeah.
He came in and he said, Ian, I'm going down the other end to the English dressing room, and if Ray doesn't take his team back on the field, they'll forfeit the game. So I was hoping like hell Ray wouldn't take them back because I was happy to take a win any way I could get it in the first test. Yeah.
And indeed that would have meant retaining the Ashes, and of course, as it turned out, got rolled for not very many in the 4th innings and lost the urn. But Ian, look, people will be hanging on a lot of your assessments of players and events over this intervening time. So I'll speed things up a bit to try to cut to the chase. But who, among the mentors who formed you, we've talked a lot on and off over the years, Richie Benaud and Nugget Miller, would they be up there with 2 of the more formative influences on you as a leader and a cricketer?
Well, you know, when you're talking mentors, you probably go all the way back to old Lynn Fuller, who was my coach, Greg's coach as well. And then obviously our father, Martin, he was a hell of an influence honours. Vic Richardson, my grandfather, in his own quiet way, was certainly someone I looked up to and admired. And then, you know, I played under Les Favell. When I got the captaincy, what I did, I sat down and I took a foolscap piece of paper and I wrote down the captains' names that I'd played under. So it was Les Favell for South Australia, Simpson and Bill Lawry for Australia. And I wrote down all the things that I liked about their captaincy. I liked all the things that I didn't like. I tried to do the things that I liked. I tried not to do the things that I disliked. And then I thought, I've got to put my own stamp on this job. As far as Benno and Keith Miller are concerned, you know, I admired both of them greatly. But, yeah, Richie I would occasionally talk to about captaincy. Richie didn't come and offer you advice. If you asked for it, he would give it. But, you know, it was more observing things as a young kid. When Martin took me to the Adelaide Oval, it was always look at Miller, watch what Miller's doing. And Martin would always tend to pick out an aggressive cricketer for me to watch. So, you know, I'd say that Martin was probably the biggest influence on my attitude towards the game of cricket.
Now, I want to split this into both as a player and as a broadcaster. Of the bowlers you faced as a player, which one troubled you the most?
Oh, the best opposition quickies that I faced were John Snow and Andy Roberts. Best opposition spinner I faced was Erapali Prasanna. Derek Underwood was the hardest spinner to get away, to score runs off. I'd probably say that Big Bird Joel Garner was the hardest quickie to score runs off.
Get that spiking bouncer for good length.
Well, yeah, and, you know, because I was a horizontal bat player, the first season I played against Bird, he gave you a bit of room to play the pull shot and occasionally the cut shot. Second season, it was here all the time. You know, you were always jammed. I remember he got me caught at mid-on at Kensington Oval in Barbados in a one-day game. He jammed me and I got caught at mid-on. And we were having a beer after play and he's got that big, deep voice and he came in and he said, "Oh, you're a slow learner." And I said, "Bird, if I don't pull you, how the hell am I going to score any runs?" But he was tough to score. But, I mean, the best fast bowler that I played with or against was Dennis Lillee. Fortunately, I only had to play him occasionally in Shield cricket.
And, of course, amazing to adjust after that horrific back injury and change into a more subtle bowler, of course, wasn't he, in his latter part of his career? He lost the real express pace but adapted his game. So he really was something, wasn't he?
I'm not sure if subtle's a word that I'd ever use in describing Dennis, but he was a bloody fine bowler. And the thing, you know, I've said a couple of important things about Dennis Lillee. He was a captain's dream and a batsman's nightmare. And one of the other great things I can say about Dennis is he never asked me for a defensive fielder. If he asked you for fielders, it was always an attacking fielder. And then the other thing about him was you had to overcome, first of all, you had to overcome his ability, which was a tough enough job on its own, but then you had to overcome his iron will. He was as determined as they come.
Yep. Now, then onto the batsmen. Who was the big wicket? Who was the one that you really had, you know, that worried you? Was it Vivian Richards or Boycott? Who was the wicket that you really felt like you had them when you got him?
Oh, best batsman I've ever seen, and I'll go to my grave saying the same thing, is Gary Sobers. I mean, forget about all the other things that he could do in the game, and they were many. Yeah. He was the best batsman that I ever played against. He's the best batsman I've seen.
The 254 in Melbourne was pretty something, wasn't it?
Yeah. But the guys that keep you awake at night are the guys who score a lot of runs and they score them quickly because they can change the game so quickly. You can think that you're in the game and a fellow like Sobers, Viv Richards, Graham Pollock, and of the modern guys, you know, Brian Lara, Ricky Ponting, Sachin Tendulkar, Gilchrist, all those sort of guys, they can take the game away from you very quickly. I didn't lose any sleep over Boycott because I've heard people say Boycott was a great player. He wasn't a great player, in my opinion, because he was a predictable player, so it was fairly easy to place a field for him. And if he got a big score, it took so long, you felt you could save the game. And the other thing, I remember Bill Lawry said one day on air, the great player Jeff Boycott, and I grabbed him when he came off air. I said, Bill, Jeff Boycott is not a great player. I said, Gary Sobers played every second of his career for the game of cricket and for his team, and he averaged 58. Jeff Boycott played every second for himself, and he averaged 47. Don't tell me he's a great player.
I want to ask you one other thing, and this might surprise our viewing audience. You don't sign up to this cult of the baggy green, do you? I remember you telling me, in fact, I don't think you kept your own baggy green. Is that a fact? You've thought this is a bit of a silly affectation that's developed in the modern game?
Well, all I kept when I stopped playing cricket was I kept my jockstrap and my protector because I needed them to play baseball as a catcher. And I kept about a half a dozen pair of those grey county socks because they were nice and warm to walk around in the winter. The rest, you know, I didn't need reminders of what I did. I was pretty comfortable with what I did. I didn't need reminders of it. And, you know, all the bollocks that is talking about the baggy green cap.
Green.
How it intimidates the opposition. Well, anyone who's intimidated by a cap shouldn't be playing Test cricket. I mean, it's ridiculous. And, you know, I used to say it's a $10 piece of cloth. It's probably worth $20 now. But, you know, it was a cap to me. I didn't need to hang a few of them around the walls to remind me of what I did. You know, I've got no idea where. Oh, I think my daughter might have one. I think somebody that I gave one of my caps to very kindly gave it to Amanda, and I think she's got one. But the rest of them I got. Well, I know some so and so pinched one off my head at the Wanderers in 1970. I'd just made a duck, and he took the cap off my head. Yep. So I wasn't a very happy person when I got back in the dressing room.